Welcome back to Draft Genius, and in this video, we're going to take a look at quarterback Justin Fields out of the Ohio State University. Now, first, we're going to take a look at his measurables. Let's talk about height, weight, body type. According to Ohio State's website, Justin Fields is listed at 6'3", and he weighs 228 pounds. So pretty average as far as his height, 6'3". I think that's pretty average around the league. 228, I think that's slightly above average. I think you want your quarterback to be in that 225 to 230 range, but I think he has really good size. And just looking at the eye test, Justin Fields passes the eye test. He's got a really solid upper and lower body. I think overall he's just really well put together. And, looking at Justin Fields, I immediately just think about a guy like Donovan McNabb, who might have been around closer to 235, 240, but around the same height, 6'3", and comparable as far as their weight. But overall, just their body types, I think, are really similar, if you ask me. But Justin Fields overall really well put together within his upper and lower body, and just a really good-looking athlete overall. Justin Fields has been banged up a little bit, though, and he takes some shots out there occasionally, some shots that you don't typically want your quarterbacks to take. But I think Fields is just a tough kid. He plays really hard. He's got the body type to withstand some of those blows that he does take out there. Took a big hit in the semifinal game against Clemson. Took a big shot from a linebacker out in the open field. So got back up, finished that game off, had one of the best games of his career. So he's a really tough player. As far as his career, he's a 2-year starter at Ohio State after transferring from University of Georgia. Didn't play much his freshman year, played a little bit, but was a backup behind Jake Fromm. Transferred to Ohio State and immediately was the day one starter. So he's played a decent amount of football. 2 years, 22 career starts. Like I said, came in day one as the guy, as one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. And in his first year as a starter, which was his true sophomore season, he threw for 3,273 yards, 41 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. All right, so he came out of the gate firing on all cylinders, and we knew early on Justin Fields was going to be that guy. This past season, Justin Fields only threw for 2,100 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, but he only played 8 games. The Big Ten season was delayed to start the season, so he only had 8 opportunities to go out there and show what he can do, and he put up some pretty nice production this past season. So as far as his career accomplishments, things like that, came out of the gate at Ohio State, firing on all cylinders. That led to him being a Heisman Trophy finalist last season. To go along with that, he's also 2-time Big Ten champ, 2-time Big Ten Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and 2-time Big Ten Quarterback of the Year. He's also led Ohio State to 2 appearances in the college football playoff. So very decorated athlete, very decorated quarterback. You can make a case that he's one of the most accomplished quarterbacks in Ohio State history, and that's only with those 2 seasons of work there. So very decorated, accomplished a lot in his 2 seasons, and he deserves to be talked about as much as he's being talked about right now. Now, let's get into the skill set breakdown of one Justin Fields. Now, overall, as a passer, I think he has plus arm strength. Gets rid of the ball with a ton of velocity. Has a really, really explosive arm. Gets the ball downfield with ease. He throws the ball with velocity on the run. He can squeeze the ball into tight windows. He can do all of that for you. He has plus arm talent. Now, I think he could get a little better as far as his touch, as far as learning when to take a little bit of heat off of the ball, especially on underneath throws, especially on like crossing routes where you need to take a little bit of steam off the ball. And I think he could do a little bit better of a job understanding that everything doesn't have to be a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. All right, so just understanding that balance, understanding the routes that you're running, understanding your receivers and what types of throws to throw them, just overall throwing the ball with a little bit better touch. I think that's something that I saw on film that Justin Fields could work on, but he's not terrible in that department at all. Just something that stood out that I noticed a few times on film. I think he excels throwing the ball on the move. So whether that be off of play action, whether it be sprint outs, things like that, I think when you get Justin Fields on the move, he's an athlete. He's a really good athlete that's comfortable doing athletic things. So throwing the ball on the move, throwing it off of play action, none of that stuff phases him. Those aren't things that are difficult for him to do. Like I said, he's an athlete that's comfortable doing athletic things, and that's why I think he excels in those areas. But overall, big arm, excellent arm talent, throws the ball well on the move, really solid mechanics. Now, I don't think he's this funky arm angle type of guy. He's not going to be throwing sidearm. I mean, not to say he can't do things like that, but he's a pretty standard passer, as far as his mechanics and how he gets rid of the ball. But overall, really good outside of a couple things that I think he could clean up. Athleticism, he's a very, very good athlete. I think that's well documented. Watching what he's able to do out there on the move, he's one of those guys that can extend plays at quarterback, and that's something that's very valuable these days and something that you almost have to be able to do. He's that guy that can do that. I think he's very, very dangerous in the open field. He's a big guy that's fast, and he's tough, and he's a really tough runner. So I think once you get him one-on-one in the open field, no matter who it is, whether it be a safety, a linebacker, whatever it is, I think Justin Fields has the capability to either make that guy miss or run that guy over. So I think he's probably the most dangerous quarterback in this draft when you look at that type of stuff. I wouldn't say he's overly elusive, even though he does show some wiggle here and there. He's more so just a one-cut downhill type of guy that's physical and will run you over and is big enough to do so. So he's also a threat as far as the quarterback run. So whatever you want to throw at him, zone read, counters, quarterback lead, power, any of that stuff, I think Justin Fields can do all of that, and he's big enough and strong enough to pick up the tough yards. Overall, Justin Fields, as far as a prospect, I think he's a winner, and he's been a winner from day one since he stepped on the field at Ohio State. Once he transferred from Georgia and got his opportunity to go out there and show and prove what he can do out there on the field. He's been a winner since he got to Columbus. He's been productive since he got to Columbus. And only outside of a couple games last season and his first season in a game or two this past season, we've rarely seen Justin Fields miss. There haven't been too many bumps in the road for him. And I think that's why you cannot count him out as one of the top prospects in this draft. His skill set is exactly what the league wants. He's able to move, can extend plays, can do stuff off platform, can do stuff off schedule, can keep plays alive, can open up the quarterback run game for you. And all of those things just makes any offense more dynamic and more of a threat to opposing defenses. And when you have those guys, they don't just grow on trees. If I had to compare Justin Fields to anybody, and I've gotten a lot of heat for this comparison, but I think it's true. I think he's a more polished Cam Newton. When I look at Cam Newton coming out of Auburn, he was physically overwhelming. Now he's bigger than Justin Fields is, but I think the sheer physical gifts that Cam Newton was blessed with are some of the things that Justin Fields is also blessed with. He might not be 6'5", 6'6", but he's 6'3", which is good enough. He's 225 to 230 pounds, similar to Cam Newton. I think Cam was about closer to 240, but still just having the physical gifts that every quarterback doesn't have. To go along with that, you have a unique skill set. You have the ability to go out there and do things that other players that play the position you play cannot do. I think it was true with Cam Newton, and I think it's true with Justin Fields. Now I say a little bit more polished because I do think he's more polished than Cam Newton as a passer coming out. But let's not forget that Cam Newton was an MVP in the NFL. And he's had seasons where he's approached 70% completion percentage. So let's not act like Cam Newton is just some guy that just can't hit the broadside of a barn, because he's played a long time in the NFL and he's had a ton of success. And even though this past season wasn't his best, he's still proven over the years that he can be effective not only as a runner, but also as a passer. Another comparison is Dak Prescott, and I think he's a little bit more athletic than Dak Prescott. But as a prospect coming out, Dak was also seen as this dual threat guy that was a really good athlete, on the bigger side, really good physical traits as well. So those two guys, a more polished Cam Newton, a more athletic Dak Prescott. If you can find some way to put that stuff in a blender, mix it up, you'd get Justin Fields as an end result. My prediction as far as where he goes in the draft, I think he's too talented to be passed up, and I think he'll be the second quarterback taken after Trevor Lawrence.